Okay, today we're going to be doing a belt change on a 2001 Toyota pickup. And so first thing I want to show you guys is there's three different belts on here. There's one for the power steering, one over here for the air conditioning compressor, and one down below that is for the alternator. And I can already see that the back of the air conditioning belt is frayed pretty badly, so I already know that that one's in need of change. Besides doing a visual inspection, we want to also check for any belt noise with the engine running. Not hearing any kind of squealing from the belts, but they are due for replacement. Put on their load. No noise. Yeah, by revving the engine, we might be able to get a little noise out of them, but again, no noise. Problem.
Okay, so I have my 3/8 flex head ratchet. Really good ratchet to be using on belts, because belts, you have a tight area. I'm going to loosen the middle bolt of this pulley and then back off the adjustment bolt here, which is going to bring the pulley down for our power steering pump. So this is our power steering fluid. So this is the power steering pump belt. All right, so make sure you're going the right way. You do not have to back this bolt off. You just have to loosen it. Okay, you don't want to unscrew it, because now you have to worry about getting it restarted. Here's my adjustment nut. I'm going to use an air tool for that. And again, you don't have to back it all the way out. You only have to loosen it to get the belt off. So I'm going to go real slowly. There we go. And you just back it off enough so you can loosen the belt, or get the belt off of the pulley. And then you see right there. And that's all I want to do. I can't countless times students take belts off and they back the bolt all the way out, and then you have to restart everything, and that's when you get into problems with stripping the bolt and all that. Okay, so here's our belt. We're going to inspect it right now on the outside, and you'll see I have some frays, but I have a large fray right here, which is why we're replacing this belt. On the inside, it's not really cracked. Well, it is kind of cracked, but it is dried out, completely dried out. We have our measurement tool that checks to see how worn it is, and you're not supposed to be able to feel. You stick this in here, you're not supposed to be able to feel it. It's still sticking above it. So the ribs wise, it's cracked, needs to be replaced. The backside, it's frayed. 80,000 miles on this belt. I got my money's worth. Okay, so we have our power steering pump belt removed. Now we're going to do our alternator belt. This belt also dries our fan. So the alternator belt is part of the fan belt. And so it's this is the adjustment screw, and this is the lock nut. So you loosen this lock nut, and then you turn the adjustment screw. But this alternator pivots as you do that on a bottom bolt. So before I even do this adjustment bolt, I got to go underneath the car, and I got to loosen, not remove, loosen the bottom bolt to the alternator.
Okay, so we got the car up in the air right now, and Mike's going to go ahead and loosen up that lower alternator mounting bolt. You can see it right here. And just to reiterate what he said, we're only going to loosen it. We don't need to remove it.
Okay, so we're underneath the car. We have a pivot bolt for the alternator and the alternator belt. This is not the adjustment bolt. It just allows the alternator pivot back and forth. We're only going to loosen it, but this bolt's interesting. It goes all the way through, and it has a nut on the back side. So I'm actually going to put a 14mm wrench here, combination wrench, and then I'm going to stick my ratchet on the back side right here, and then I'm going to loosen this, okay? So it's kind of a 2-wrench setup. There we go. And there we go. We just loosened it. I am not going to take that all the way off. I could go ahead and take that bolt now. I could spin it, but I don't have to worry about starting any threads. I'm just going to tighten it after we change the belt. Okay, so here's our lock nut or bolt right here that pinches this after you adjust it. So we're going to loosen this nut, and we're going to back off the adjustment screw, bring the alternator in. But first I got to find the right socket. So I'm going to go here, and this is a 13. The 13 is way too small, or too large. So now I'm going to try a 12. And this is the mistake that students make, is they don't do the wiggle test in the socket. It's definitely a 12 millimeter. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my flex head ratchet. I'm going to use my flex head ratchet. I'm going to get it right in here. What's nice about the flex head ratchet is I'm able to maneuver around hoses like this right here. And I'm just going to loosen this. Okay? Notice I'm not using an air tool. I'm using a ratchet because I'm just loosening it. Once you get it loosened, now we can use an air ratchet for the adjustment screw, because it's much faster than just trying, and make sure you're going the right way, then it's much faster than trying to do it with a ratchet. And I'm going to have my hand on the belt on the opposite side here, and I'm going to wait and see. I can start to remove that belt. Oh, and this is a good example of something that is like kind of been corroded and it's actually seized on here. So I'm going to get a pry bar, because this should move now. We know the bottom bolt's loose. We know this is loose, but yet the adjustment screw is not moving the alternator. So oh, there we go. I just had to push on it. And now the alternator is almost loose enough. And let's get it moving a little more. And let's see if I get that belt off. Let's see. Not quite. Nope. Oh, let's pull it up. You go ahead and stop. Okay, so these are radiator hose belt, or radiator hose tools. They're meant to break the seal on radiator hoses when you change them. They go underneath so you could break the seal, but they're also excellent for tight areas for belts. So I'm going to grab this right here, and I'm going to see if I can use that to get my belt off. And you can also use it to get it on, but I couldn't get my hand down there and get this off. So let's see, there we go. Excellent. Really good tool to get belts on and off.
Okay, the last belt we got to get off is the AC, air conditioning compressor. Very similar to the alternator belt. It has a adjustable idler pulley. And again, we're going to loosen the center nut and then use this long adjusting bolt to relieve the tension on there.
All right, so I'm going to make sure my bolt's tight, or my socket's tight, and it's tight. So I'm just going to loosen this. Always push with an open hand so you don't bust your knuckles, okay? Loosen that, and now it's just a matter of getting this bottom bolt right here. And I'm going to pull on the belt so I know I have enough play. Let's see how we got. Yep, there we go. Get that off now. A little more. Take it back. Almost there. There we go. And while we're at it, we're going to take off. See, we couldn't take off the alternator belt because the air conditioning belt was in front of it on the crankshaft pulley. So we're going to take off our air conditioning belt first. Okay. We do not have to route this around the fan. All right. And we look at this belt first. We're replacing it because it's frayed. Okay. And it's cracked on the inside. So definitely need to replace it. I don't have to use that orange tool to check this. It failed. And now I'm going to take my alternator belt off, and it dries my fan. And I got to get it around the fan. So I'm actually going to get it inside the fan right here. You got a clear shot on that, Jordan? All right. So I'm going to get it inside there. Once I got it inside, then I'm just going to feed it around one blade at a time. Going one blade at a time. And let's see. There we go. 2. And what that fan belt will do, it will route that, bring that first loop back to me, so then I could snake out this belt. And let's check this belt. Okay. Little starting to fray right there. Inside, definitely cracked. You can see the cracks. Okay, so it needs to be replaced. Remember, 80,000 miles are on these belts, so it's a good time to change them. Okay, so I found my power steering, my air conditioning belt. So I'm going to set that aside because I got to put on my alternator belt, which is the longest belt first. Because that was all the way back inside the car. And like I say, it's easy to get your head spun around. All right, that one doesn't look like the alternator belt, so I think that's the power steering pump. Let's check this one. Match it up, pull. Yes, so that is my alternator belt. So let's go put that on the car. And then I'm going to put all my belts on, then I'm going to tighten them. Okay? Okay, we're going to install our alternator belt. First, I got to go around our fan. So I'm going to get one blade started on the fan, and then I'm just going to rotate my fan, going around each blade until it comes back around to me. Almost there. There we go. So now I'm around my fan. Okay, so I'm going to route this down over my crankshaft. Underneath. You might have to crawl underneath sometimes to get it onto your crankshaft. And then I'm going to go around my water pump. And then go around my alternator pulley. So get it on the crankshaft first. The alternator pulley should be the last pulley you get it on. Because it's the easiest one to get access to. There we go. Make sure it's always in the grooves. Okay, so I'm in the groove there. I'm in the groove in my water pump right here in the middle, which is kind of hard to see. Come over here. You can look right down inside there. So you can see my water pump right there, which also drives the fan. And then down underneath, down here, is my crankshaft pulley. And it's all inside. Now the next thing we need to route is our air conditioning. So we're going to do that from underneath. Okay, so we have our air conditioning belt. We have it inside our crankshaft. We have it over our air compressor up here for the air conditioning. Now I need to just move my adjuster bolt up here, or pulley up here. And I got this one done. One more belt to install. Okay, last belt. This belt has to go around the fan right here. So I'm going to route this one blade at a time like I did before. This is for the power steering pump. Okay, when I get it around the fan, then I'm going to loop it on my crankshaft down at the bottom. Right there. Go around my adjustment pulley right here. Then I'm going to bring that up and over my power steering pump. And this is a good example of when we could use the radiator hose tool, and just instead of trying to get my hand all messed up, I can put that on there. Here we go. I could have probably loosened my my adjuster a little more because this is a tighter belt because it's new. But really cool tool to get belts on when your hands can't fit in their certain areas. So now we're ready to adjust things. Okay, we're going to go ahead and adjust our power steering pump belt. After I tighten the adjustment screw to the right tension, then I'm going to tighten the pulley bolt. So get that on, and I'm going to wiggle it, and I want to get it to where I have a 1/2 inch play, and I think that's right there. Yep, I'm happy. 1/2 inch. I'm going to take that socket off now. Put on my flex head ratchet. Put that on the center nut of my pulley right here. And I'm just going to tighten this. Okay, power steering pump pulley is done. Now let's do the alternator. Okay, so now we're ready to adjust our alternator belt. I'm going to put this down into that cradle right there. Okay, when I tighten this, it's going to bring my alternator back and tighten my belt. Air tools are nice for this because it just makes it a lot faster. Okay, I'm going to be checking the tension on the back side so I don't block your view. You can see the belt moving because that's why I'm pushing it. I like that. I'm going to reach down now so you can see what I'm talking about. A 1/2 inch play. I'm good with that. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and use an air ratchet on this. Remember, it's going to kick, right? So, there we go. Good. We still have one more bolt to tighten on the bottom side. So let's do that. All right, we're going to take our combination 14mm wrench, stick that on that bolt right there, put the air ratchet on the back, be aware it's going to kick. There we go. And just a little snug. And we're good for our alternator. Okay, we're ready to do our air AC belt, so I'm going to tighten this until I get the right tension. Should be a 1/2 inch, a little more. Good with that. Tighten the middle nut on the pulley. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and show you how to do the old V belts. Okay, so the V belts, they don't have the mechanical adjustments like you do on the newer cars. This is an older car. So the way it works is this is a pivot bolt, and then down low down here is the adjustment bolt, and then it gives you this little square here to put a breaker bar in. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen up my bolts. Remember, you don't have to take them apart. You only have to loosen them. Okay? There's one. I'm going to go down here, get the other. It's kind of tight, so I'm going to loop a wrench on real quick. And that will help me get some leverage, hopefully. Let me get a ratchet. All right, so I got my snap-on flex head ratchet. One of my favorite tools. Yeah, I needed that. It's a little rusty. Let's spray a little bolt penetrant on there. Maybe that will help.
Is there a nut on the backside?
There is not. It goes through the water pump, and these are because this bolt goes through the water pump here. A lot of times they rust inside the water pump, and that's what causes the problems. There we go. You just saw the power steering pump drop. Okay, so now you can see how that works. We could get a breaker bar, which I'll do to tighten this, but we loop that off. Okay, get that off of the bottom crank pulley. And then this has to go around the fan like I did before. Okay, so I'm going to just route the fan around. And there we go. And this belt, even though it's old, it's a little dried out, a little cracked, but it's not all that bad. So let's go back on with it. All right, so start it over one fan belt and then just rotate that fan belt around. One more. There we go. Get that around my crank pulley down at the bottom. And right there, get it around my power steering, and then get it around my water pump, because it's also what spins the water pump. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adjust the vehicle using two methods, or adjust the belt using two methods, a breaker bar. So we can put the breaker bar right in this little square that it gives you, okay? And then you just push on it like this, and then you can go ahead and tighten your bolts. Now the thing with this is now I have some interference a little bit with my bolt, so get that on there. I'm going to give it a nice pull and tighten this cinch bolt right here. Remember, this is actually the pivot bolt, and the bottom one down here is the adjustment bolt. So let's get that on. There we go. Got to keep that tight. And tighten that bottom bolt. There we go. And we have that. I should go a little tighter. So here's an example of, I should probably have used you could use a pry bar, okay? And we could actually get it in here and move that belt a little more with a pry bar versus that breaker bar. It gives us more leverage. Okay, you just got to be careful when you're using a pry bar that you don't dent anything or hit anything plastic. Okay, so you could see on the power steering where students did it improperly. They did it right in the middle of the tank and doing it on the outside. Okay, so this would be another way you could adjust it. Let me loosen that one bolt. A little more. There. Pop the hood. You're good. Pop the hood. Leave it running. So we think it's the alternator, which is right underneath there. We used a stethoscope, and the stethoscope, it was howling. So before I ever take this belt off, so we already have the right tool. I want to make sure I know how this belt is routed. Too many people just go and take the belt off, and you know, wow, does it go on this side of this pulley or on this side of this pulley? Does it go over this or under this? So we also need to pay attention to what drives what. So this is your crankshaft. It all starts here. The crankshaft's actually what spins it. Let's go in a counterclockwise fashion. So then we go over here. This pulley, you can see an air conditioning line. This is the air conditioning compressor. It goes around this and up and over the alternator. This is the alternator pulley right here. Comes down, goes around another pulley. This is just a idler pulley. It does nothing other than directs the direction of the belt. So it doesn't move, just spins. It's an idler pulley. That thing goes up here to the top, which is a power steering pulley. It comes around the power steering pulley and goes to another pulley. This is just an idler pulley. Just like this is an idler pulley, this is an idler pulley, so they can route the belt where it's supposed to go. So then it comes over to this side, and it goes around this pulley right here, and this is the water pump. As a matter of fact, Miss Tone has a coolant leak from the water pump. So this is the water pump on a Chrysler, okay? And then it comes around and then goes around my belt tensioner pulley. We know that's the belt tensioner because we already moved it, but I'm going to do it again. Oh, get that on there. Get that on there like that. And then I'm going to move it, and then I'm just going to loop that belt right off the crankshaft. And then we can take this belt off. Stop. Okay, so we're talking about belts right now. We're doing an alternator, but here's a belt. Serpentine belt has ribs, okay? You don't want to see any frays. It's starting to fray right here. You can see that's part of the fabric. So a little bit's okay. If you saw like a lot, then that would be problematic, okay? Turn it over, you want to bend it. If you see cracks inside on the ribs, then that would be another indication. So check in a couple places. Alright, so now let's refer to the poster. I'm not a big fan of posters because my students never look at them or read them, but the posters are there because they represent what you're supposed to do or know in the shop, okay? So this is a belt wear indicator, so it sits inside the belt, and if it's a good belt, it will be above it and you could feel this. If it sits down inside, then the belt is worn. And so here's an example of what I was just talking about of a frayed belt or a cracked belt, which this belt doesn't look like these, okay? They could be glazed, and if they're glazed, then they're causing a squealing sound. So look for the glazing. That's a real problem with serpentine belts. Earlier we talked about belt routing and the belt tensioner. So this is a different type of belt tensioner where you just use the drive to a breaker bar or ratchet, stick it right inside there, and then you can move this pulley off of the belt and take the belt off the crankshaft, the power steering, the alternator, or no, sorry, the crankshaft, the air conditioning, the alternator, and the power steering. So let's go ahead and try this. Okay, I'm going to take my little indicator right here, and I'm going to put that right inside, and I'm just going to put my hand across there, and I can feel it. If I wasn't able to feel it, then, and you can look at it from the side, you can see it sticking up. So if it was sticking all the way and it was completely flat, then we need to change this belt. So her belt's not making noise, it's not cracked, it's not frayed, okay? So we're going to reuse this serpentine belt. And we need to rev it too. All right, so you heard it before, and now you're hearing it after. So that alternator is right there with the AGP decoupler pulley. Everything's working quietly. Customer's going to be happy. Look down here, you can see the crankshaft pulley, the air conditioning pulley. So I'm okay now putting the cover back on here and putting the wheel back on here. I'm not going to make a video of putting the cowling on and the wheel on, so I'm happy with my repair.
If you forget the belt routing, you're going to have to go online and look it up. One of the places you can go is to Pro Demand. First thing you got to do is log in. Next thing we're going to have to do is enter the vehicle's information. It's 2008 Chrysler Sebring. And it was the 2.4 engine, and it was a limited edition. So now we can use this vehicle. We're going to go into service manual under engine mechanical. And we should be able to drop down a sub-menu here. Accessory drive belt. Accessory drive. Belt drive. And I think if we scroll down, there might be an image. Well, here's installation. Should be an image there. We're working with the 2.4. And again, if you scroll down, now you can see here's the belt routing for the exact car that we are looking at. So again, if you forget how the belt goes, there's always a place you can look that information up.